Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of Pit Pass Network interviews. Today, we are joined by Thomas Annunziata, current driver of the number 10 Nerd Focus Energy Drink slash PHL Racing slash Bayshore Mortgage Funding LLC Mazda race car for Hickson Motorsports in the Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 Cup Series, and also the number 90 Nerd Focus Energy Ford Mustang for Nitro Motorsports in the Trans Am TA2 series, and then a driver of the number 35 Chevy for Travis Quaffle Racing in the Carolina Pro Late Model Series. And Thomas is also a two-time Mazda Spec MX-5 champion and is only 17 years old. So thanks so much for joining us, Thomas.
Anytime, it's a pleasure, Matthew.
Yeah, so you're just coming off a win a couple days ago at Tri-County Speedway in the Carolina Pro Late Model Series, the second of your career at this point. So I guess walk me through your race and what led you to the win.
Well, at the starters, working with such a great group of guys is a huge part of it. I mean, the Quapples have been a massive part of NASCAR, and their kids are doing exceptionally well in racing. So he really knows how to tune those things. So it was a super fast race car. Only my second time really completing a full race, and I'm still trying to get all the experience I can in oval racing. So I kind of held out in front for a while. I led almost every lap, so I was saving tires really mostly and trying to stay consistent. But there was a late race caution and a green white checkered. I've never been in that situation before, and executed it well and won the race. But I'm still learning a lot every lap I go. So I just I executed and we got the victory.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then you had another win earlier in the season, only in your second start at Orange County, in the Carolina Pro Late Models Series as well, and that was your first win. So I guess walk me through that race as well and what led to your win.
Um, well, I qualify on pole for starters. I qualified on pole a couple of days ago as well, but we've been really fast. So I've competed in 4 races now, and I've only finished 2. The other ones ended early due to mechanical failures. So the only 2 races I finished were victories. Um, so we got the pole, and I didn't really know what to expect. Never really had to save tires this much in any other form of racing because you don't really have to do that in the road course stuff. But I did the best of my ability to save the tires and did a pretty good job. And I had Quapple talking me through the whole race as well. So it wasn't very not much happened in the race. So I mean, I led the race. There was one caution, and then I got out to a good lead, and then maintained the gap and led every lap, and won the race. So I still have some learning to do in passing cars and just racecraft and around ovals in general. But yeah, it was another one of those more dominant victories that I had.
Yeah, for sure. And you raced for Quaffle Motorsports, and Travis Quaffle's raced in the Cup Series before. So what does it mean to have someone like that help you out still early in your racing career at age 17?
I mean, it's huge. He has so much knowledge and experience, and just the fact that he could watch me and see me succeed is good for me as well. Because obviously he's got a lot of connections, and that could be a huge part of my racing career progressing. So he's a great guy. His a great group of guys, all of them. So I'm honored to work with him, and hopefully continue to put more performances on like that in front of important people.
That's very cool. And I guess how did that opportunity come about?
Um, So Team Chevy in the early parts of the year were looking at me, and there's a guy named Lauren Rainier. He's a huge part of NASCAR. He's helped a bunch of very talented Cup drivers that are in the Cup Series today get to that point, and he just helps drivers find a path. And he looked at me, and I saw him. I met him a year ago, and we went testing a Legend car, um, and then we ended up testing a late model. But he's been watching my career, and he's been helping me find paths to the NASCAR Cup Series. And he knew the Quapples, and he knows those are a great group of guys to be working with, and it helped me a ton in my racing career. So he hooked me up with them.
That's very awesome. You mentioned about Lauren Rainier. He's the grandson of HB Rainier, who owned Rainier Racing, and you
Hmm.
mentioned about the drivers uh, that he helped develop, or and then his grandfather that owned HB owned helped win Daytona 500s for like people like Buddy Baker, Kelly Yarborough,
Yep.
and Bobby and Davey Allison. And then, yeah, he currently owns the Rainier Racing Development. And you mentioned he helped a lot of Cup drivers current right now, or like some are retired now, but like Jimmy Johnson, Tony Stewart, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Larson, Zane Smith, and Sam Ayer, some of them. So I guess what does it mean to get that opportunity from, you mentioned, I asked about qualifier, but now Lanier or Rainier.
It's awesome. I mean, especially hearing some of the phone calls and hearing some of these guys talk good about you is really cool. Um, like I call Rainier all the time, and he calls my dad and stuff, and to hear him say and call me talented and talk good about me is a huge part of my confidence and is a huge part of my success because ultimately that'll end up that word will be end up spreaded to other parts of motorsports. So yeah, it's super cool, and I just need to get more of those phone calls going. They're awesome. Just got to keep my head up, keep digging, and I believe it will come soon.
Yeah, not to mention that I saw Mark Martin has liked some of your Instagram posts before. So uh, was it kind of shocking that all of a sudden you saw Mark Martin liked your Instagram posts, and what does that mean as well?
Yeah, it is really cool. I've got some NASCAR drivers, of course, due to my NASCAR fan page that you know of, but a lot of them from my racing as well. And it's awesome. I mean, in order to get some sort of attention, you have to be running up front, and to get any of those guys to comment or show you any attention, you have to be doing something right. So, um, yeah, it's super cool. Just got to keep winning, and I'm sure the right opportunity will come up.
Yep. And then before your late model series racing, you also are more experienced in the street car and supercars in the uh, you're currently in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series and the Trans Am TA2 series. So I guess explain to the fans at home that don't know those series that well, like how differently the two cars drive.
Um, well, for one, the TA2 cars, it's got like triple the horsepower as of the Mazda, and it's a heavy race car, right? So, you have to drive it like a NASCAR stock car. It's a heavy race car. You have to brake late, get in the throttle, when you're straight off the corner. It's not necessarily momentum, but you just need to straight line it, save tires, and that's in the weight balance is a huge part of it as well because they're so heavy. And in the Mazdas, it's almost like a go kart. I mean, they're not as fast. They have like 180 horsepower. Um, it's all momentum based, and it's just about carrying as much speed as possible. And let alone the draft in those cars are absolutely insane. I mean, every race is like Talladega. I mean, I'm going up. My next race is Road America in a few weeks for the MX5 Cup race. And that track's huge. It's going to be Talladega the whole way. So it's a lot of it's more of a chess game, really. I'd say the Trans Am cars is more driving and may the best driver win. But I think the MX5 Cup cars definitely help and improve your racecraft because you could go from first to 10th in one lap. The draft is that big, and you could go from 10th to first in one lap. So it's all about putting your car in the right spot and executing.
Yeah, for sure. And then I mentioned earlier you raced at the late model series, and that series most closely resembles NASCAR. And now you're getting some experience in that. So would you want to race in NASCAR in the future if the opportunity came?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's been my number one goal. If obviously I'm doing other things as well, so if NASCAR weren't to work, I'd love to do IMSA, maybe GT3 racing, LMP cars or prototypes. That would be awesome. But as of right now, all eyes are on NASCAR. Already got NASCAR teams looking at me, and I've got a lot of guys that worked with NASCAR looking at me. Like for example, my TA2 team, my crew chief is Brian Kozlowski, Kozlowski's brother, and I got some of Earnhardt's uh, tire crew on my race car. So there's a lot of NASCAR around TA2 and a lot of racing around. So like I said, putting on performances like I did last week and really throughout the year is going to consistently help me progress through the ranks and make it up to NASCAR. But there's always going to be a way. Maybe it's a harder way, maybe it's not. Some people have different paths, but I do believe I can make it. It's just a matter of timing and work.
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned Brian Kozlowski. He's starting to crew chief you this season. Your first season with him in the Trans Am 2A2 series. I guess he's a big name obviously because of his brother Brad. And then I guess how beneficial is it someone to have someone like that with that amount of racing pedigree behind them?
It's, I mean, it's super beneficial. He knows his stuff. I mean, he used to race with Brad, and he was just as good as Brad. He just the same opportunities didn't, show up to him like Brad did. But it's part of racing, right? I mean, not everyone can make it. But he's an excellent driver, but he's super good when it comes to tuning the race car and fine tuning every part of the race car to make it as fast as possible. I mean, he changes everything. He tries everything. He tries things out of the box, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it works, boy, are we fast. So he has a lot of knowledge when it comes to the race car itself, and has a lot of knowledge on how to get to NASCAR, and has a lot of knowledge on driving NASCARs and just the driving part of it. So it's the full package really, and it's the perfect thing for my racing career right now because really I just started it. So to be getting years and years and years and decades worth of experience in my first season is it's gonna pay off in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. And Brian Keselowski uh is not or was a driver as well, not just like some crew chiefs are just crew chiefs and never had racing experience, but Brian has racing experience as well. So I feel like just having a driver is like sort of like a driver coach too. So I feel like that's beneficial as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think his last race was the Truck Series in 2015. But I mean, he had his own team. He raced in the Daytona 500 a few times. He made a few starts. Wasn't in the most competitive stuff, like I said. Brad uh, ended up getting more of the opportunities, but that's just part of racing. But he's an amazing driver, and he knows exactly how to get there, get to that point, and he knows all about the series and the right things to do to make it to that series. So he's like I said, an amazing part of my racing career, and I'm so happy to and thankful to be a part of that.
Yeah, and now NASCAR nowadays are adding a lot more road courses to the schedule. And I feel like that's really beneficial because the series you're racing in are primarily road course racing, and a lot of the tracks are actually in NASCAR, like Watkins Glen and Road America. You mentioned you're doing it soon, and you've done Coda before, so I feel like all of those racetracks will just having those experience in those racetracks give you your strength if you ever get to NASCAR.
Yeah, I'm super happy that I started in road course racing. I mean, I've been racing road course since I was 10. I never started off in dirt racing or midgets. I always started off in the go karts that IndyCar drivers and F1 drivers started in. So I've been racing road course for 7 years, and it really paid dividends. My first TA2 test last year, I drove Kevin Harvick's TA2 car, and I was faster than him already in the first day. Um, and it just goes to show that uh, if the more you focused on a certain thing, it and ends up working out for you. Like I said, 7 years of road course racing would be huge for NASCAR. So I think one of my first starts in any of the NASCAR divisions would be a road course. That's what I've been talking about with some of these NASCAR teams, but which makes sense. But that's part of the reason why I'm starting to do oval as well, because 30 other the races are oval, so you got to learn that experience. But yeah, I hope that NASCAR continues to go down that road course route, and maybe more road courses go in because it really helped, and it's more of what I know. But yeah, got to jump into um, all styles of racing here this year and next year to get my experience up and really become the full package when it comes to me as a race car driver.
And then growing up, did you have a favorite NASCAR driver?
Yeah, Kyle Busch might be a little bit controversial, but that's why I like him. He's good, and he'll tell you how it is. So I like him a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess the people watching that don't know you that well, uh I guess walk me through your background in racing and what got you started in racing.
Um, my dad's a drag racer. He can never make turns. He gets car sick. So he always drag raced. He stopped before I was born to have me and raise me. But he always loved race cars. He always brought Mustangs home, and he'd give me joy rides, and I just always loved it. I started off with baseball, and I never really wasn't my thing. I don't like throwing a ball around. No disrespect to the sport. I know it's difficult. It just didn't excite me. Um, and one day I went indoor go karting because it was a rainy day and we were bored. And the rest is history. I mean, I loved it from then on. Then I won a few indoor go kart races. Then we went to outdoor go karting in the cadet class, which is the younger class. And then started winning at my local track. And then started doing national go karting, which is the highest level of karting in America. And eventually started winning those. And so by that time, I'm 14, 15 years old. It's now time to look at cars because now we're getting to that age. And then we got into race cars, started off into the Mazda stuff, progressed into that MX5 Cup series, and then decided the best route would probably be NASCAR because IndyCar is a bit expensive. Formula One's completely out. So went down the NASCAR route, and we're learning as we go because my dad never really went down that route. He was always, like I said, a drag racer. So I think we're making all the right decisions and all the right moves at the moment, and we just got to keep that up.
Yeah, for sure. And then, uh, do you have any siblings? And if you do they race as well?
I got two siblings, 15-year-old brother who plays baseball, and a 7-year-old sister who, just started talking. So I don't know what she wants to do yet. She's doing some dance and horseback riding, but she's young, so.
That's awesome. And then your early days of racing, do you remember your first car number, your first ever car number?
Number 10. I didn't want number 10, but I had number 10. Um, and then quickly changed it to 15. And I'd have my car number isn't 15 nowadays, but it was 15 for really my whole racing career up until now.
Is 15 your favorite number?
It is. It was the year my sister was born. It was the year my life changed because that was the year I realized what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, which is, you don't really find young kids figuring it out at 10 years old. So I don't know, just my whole life changed at that point. I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then, so last fall, you got runner-up in the Mazda shootout, resulting in an earning of a scholarship worth 75,000 with Mazda Motorsports. So would you say that moment of your career was a monumental moment for your racing journey?
Um, it was one of the big ones. I would say I don't know if it was monumental, but it was definitely a huge part of it because racing is very difficult to pay for. And I was one of 30 drivers first nominated, and then one of 9 that were selected, and then to be one of the top 2 that were officially given the prize um, was awesome. So it really helped me compete for the whole season this year. Um, and now we're looking to take the um, rookie of the year money or prize to so I could race the series again next year or use it for other series. But yeah, it definitely helped because it created this ladder effect where now I could compete in the Mazda championship, and now I could fight for more money in the series championship that could help me race more next year. So
Yeah, for sure. And then you mentioned earlier you started out kart racing. So you competed in the highest levels of kart racing before, the National American karting, such as Super Karts USA, US Pro Kart Series, and ROK Series. So I guess how big of a transition was it for you, like after you're done kart racing, going to sports car? So the transition of going from a kart to a stock car, and like how long it took you to adjust.
um, I don't. It never took me a while to adjust. It was just the atmosphere and learning how to talk with people. Like I'll give you an example. The karting days, yes, it's very competitive, but it's a toxic environment at the end of the day. I mean, no one really talks to anyone. Um, it's go karting, so there's no give. You put each other on the wall if you have to. But it's super competitive. When you go into car racing, you realize that first off, everything's more expensive, so you can't just do that stuff, and you're going to piss a lot of people off. For 2, it's more professional. So now, when I went into it, I had to learn how to interview, how to learn how to talk to people, how to make connections, and how to take care of my competitors. Because at the end of the day, your reputation's huge, especially as a young driver coming up. you want people talking good about you. So it was definitely a rude awakening. I definitely pissed off a few people in the beginning. So I've definitely fixed that since then. But I had yeah, I pissed off a few people. I couldn't really talk very well. And I was just very shy. And sponsors aren't going to like that. Teams aren't going to like that. So I really had to grow up quick. Um, and other than that, from the driving perspective, it's just learning how to drive with suspension. Now there's weight distribution. Everything's slower. Even in the TA2 cars, it's fast. Don't get me wrong, but in the go karts, those things are like darts. I mean, you turn it and it goes. So, um, yeah, everything just is slower, and you just gotta become the whole package as a race car driver. You gotta speak well. You gotta be able to sell products. You gotta be able to win races. You gotta be able to take care of your equipment. Um, and just be very marketable. That's the whole package, and I've been learning that.
Yeah, for sure. And then a big moment of your career last year was when you ran the Trans Am 2A2. You finished podium in both or in third place at Coda and on your second Trans Am start, which is very impressive because it was a stacked 50 car field. So I
Mhm.
guess how were you able to find success like that early, like only your second race?
Um, I always knew I had it. From the very start of my racing career, I always felt like I had something that other people didn't, and a lot of people saw that in me. And obviously, racing is a big mental part of the game. Mentality is a big part of the game. Sorry. Um, like for example, in the karting days, that's how I learned it. I was always quick, but I wasn't always mentally there. You got to believe in yourself. If you don't 100% believe in yourself, you're not always going to win, and really, you're not going to win. So it's ruthless out there. So that definitely calloused my brain, calloused my head to be strong in those moments. Because at the end of the day, I was joining a professional pro racing series. Didn't know any of the drivers, haven't really been in the car before. Because my first start wasn't really a start. Theoretically, it was my second start, but in the first start, my car broke down on lap one, and all three practice sessions. I got only 2 laps of qualifying and was thrown into the race with really no practice, and my car broke down again. So on paper, it's my second start, but it was really my first start altogether as an experience wise. So I used all the experience I knew from karting and all the Mazdas in the beginning of that year, and put it all together, and were able to collect the last spot in the podium, which was huge. It was the biggest TA2 race in history, so opened a lot of eyes, and a lot of teams looked out for me, and it was just really the start of my name getting put out there. So it was a huge part of my racing career, and one that I believe will solidify my racing career forever.
Yeah, for sure. And then going to the Mazda series you're in, last month you swept the podium in the doubleheader at Watkins Glen with a second place finish in race one and a third place finish in race two. So I guess walk me through that feeling as you are only a rookie in the series and having success so quickly.
Yeah. Like I said, it's really a chess game, and where you put your car, and it's all racecraft, right? It's all race smarts. So, um, over the course of the beginning of the year, it wasn't a great start to the year. We were fast, but we had a lot of mechanical issues or things that were out of our control. We weren't very lucky in some circumstances. So we were in contention for a few wins and a few podiums in the beginning of the year, but we're collecting in some wrecks. So I knew I really had to do something at least this race, because it's the second half of the season now. And if I wanted to turn my season around, I had to do something. So um, I believe I was second in the rookie standings after all the misfortune in the beginning of the year, and I was like ninth in points. And I just had to put a good qualifying down, which I did, and then had to just stay in front. So luckily my teammate was up there, so we could work together, and we were able to put ourselves in really good spots for the last couple laps. But with the second and third place finish, I extended my rookie championship from minus 50 points to ahead of the champion in the championship by like 350 points. So we've got a good cushion now, and I've moved up to fourth in the championship. So the championship is now on. It's going to be tough because I'm still far behind, but the championship's on, and now the rookie of the points is looking a little bit more promising. So that was a huge weekend for us this year, and definitely one I want to continue the momentum onto Road America.
Yeah, for sure. And then earlier in the season in that series, it was you raced in at Daytona, and was that your first time racing at that track? Because asking because it's such a historic track in NASCAR.
Actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't my first time. I ran it in the Spec MX5 series last year. But it was the first time I ran it with that many people. With like I said, the Mazda MX5 Cup cars were so drafty. It was like Talladega on steroids. So, um, it was cool. The atmosphere was super cool. It was awesome to say I raced on Daytona in a pro racing series. But I was never a big fan of it. It's very difficult. I mean, you could get freight trained by 10 guys in one corner, um, due to just draft and pushing each other. So, um, it was very hectic. It was very tense, and I'm sure it was really cool for the fans to watch. But as a driver's perspective, um, it was a bit scary, but it was fun. It was fun.
Would you say a goal one day is to compete in the Rolex 24?
Yeah, I would say so. Depends really where my racing career goes. But depending whether or not I make it to Cup or Xfinity, or maybe I make it elsewhere, I do believe that I am one of the best, and I do believe that I can compete at the highest level in the highest level. Like I believe I could be one of the best in the Cup Series, doesn't matter where it is. So I believe that um, if you compete to that level and you really do succeed, you can get opportunities elsewhere. Like I could become a 2-time champion or something in the NASCAR Cup Series and get an opportunity maybe in Europe or something. Maybe I could race the Le Mans 24 hours. Maybe I'll get an opportunity at the Rolex. You never know. So the focus is to go to the NASCAR Cup Series and really perform there. And I believe that the opportunities will come after that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think you definitely ran on a good amount of tracks now in your career, but which track that you haven't ran on so far you would most look forward to racing at?
Ooh. I haven't raced at the Charlotte Roval yet. I'd like to do that. I don't believe it's not my favorite track, but it is. There's not many tracks I haven't been on. Either that one or Sonoma. I haven't been to Sonoma before, and I'd love to go to Sonoma. So the elevation change is really cool there. So uh, I think I have it on the schedule next year. So I'm just looking forward to that and the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah, for sure. And then back when you ran in the Spec series last year, Mazda Spec MX-5 series, you swept both races at Mid Ohio, winning both races, and then later that season swept both races at Coda. So I guess what was the feeling like to sweep not just one track, but another one later in that season?
Um, well, first off, it was the first one was one of the best feelings. Mid Ohio was my first car win and my first car pole. Last year was the first year for me for race cars. It wasn't my first pro season, but first uh, car season, and it was an awesome feeling. It reminds you that you made it, and it was a really cool moment with me and my dad. And we got a few more podiums throughout the year. We had a few more opportunities to win, but those cars could be sometimes unreliable sometimes, and we lost some races due to that. But we were behind far in the championship going into Coda at the later that season. Um, and just to put on a show like that in the last couple races to win the championship was unbelievable. I mean, we were like 40 points out, and we had no choice but to win both races, and we did that. So we left the series as champions, 2-time champions, and it just, like I said, it really solidified my racing career, and it helped me understand and better understand me as a driver, and it really understanding how good I am. I mean, it helps with confidence, and it helps with self belief, and um, the more experiences you have like those, the more you start to realize that hey, this could be something that could actually work out one day. So
Yeah, for sure. And then over the years, what do you think has been your favorite road course you've raced on?
I'm a street circuit guy. So maybe the Detroit race I recently did 2 months ago. Uh, it probably obviously they change every year, or sometimes they change every year. But I love street circuits. It's very technical. There's walls. It goes from concrete to asphalt. There's drains in the middle of the track, like from the streets. I mean, there's paint from the road lines. I mean, it's as technical as it can possibly get. And I really believe that that's where you'll find some of the best race car drivers because now you have to adapt. And I've always found that I could adapt very quickly to those. Even in the go kart days, when we do park, it's really parking lot, but it'd be a parking lot with walls on each side. And so it was almost like a street circuit where you have to now you have to find your breaking point, you have to find your apex, you have to look for all that and find grip on the racetrack because really there is no grip. It wasn't made to be a racetrack. So I always thought that I adapt to those quicker than others, and they're just so much fun.
Which road course you've raced on so far would you say has been like the most challenging so far?
Um, Road America, Road America. I just it's not that I'm slow there. It's just uh, things haven't been put together there ever. I mean, the Trans Am race I did a few weeks ago, we had mechanical issues. We weren't able to do half the sessions of the entire weekend, and it's kind of fixed it up. But the car still needs work. So we ended up finishing sixth there, but that was a little bit frustrating. And last year we were P1 in both practice sessions. And right before qualifying in the race, I get severe food poisoning, so I have to miss the first full day. And then the second day on lap one, the transmission broke. So, I mean, we don't have a good relationship, me and Road America, but uh, I am going there again in a few weeks, so I'd like to turn that around, but it just hasn't been very nice to me.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess now, do you have a specific pre-race routine?
Um, I mean, right before the race, I'll take put my vitamin or electrolyte drink together, and I'll have it. But it's really just I get real quiet. You got to get in the zone. You got to think about every scenario, every situation that could possibly happen, and how you could get out or execute in that situation. I just become really focused and locked in. But other than that, I like music. I'll listen to music sometimes before a race, and pump and hype myself up because that's what you got to do. At the end of the day, if you don't believe you're the best, you might as well stay home. So you got to get into that mentality somehow. So that's really it. You just gotta be aggressive and take what's yours essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And then how do you prep like the week coming to the race too?
Oh, I'm on a strict schedule when it comes to my health and working out and eating. Got to eat healthy. Um, Less bread in my diet because it becomes sugar through whatever glucose. Um, but I run 4 or 5 days a week. I'm in the gym 6 days a week, working out every possible muscle you could think of, just so I could, at the end of these races, focus on driving and winning the races instead of falling out of the seat. For example, in the beginning of this year, in my first pro year, I wasn't doing all those things yet. Yeah, I mean, you have to learn the hard way sometimes, and I did. I wasn't doing my job, so I ended up having a heat stroke at Sebring and wasn't able to finish the race. And I should have been able to. So I realized after that moment that if I want to compete for championships and wins and compete at a high level in any of these series, I really need to start grinding and get myself together first.
Yeah, for sure. And then like maybe like through a race, have you ever like experienced like a some like uh hard moments like maybe like an air conditioner like breaking or whatever?
That was funny you say that. That was Sebring. So in the I'd say it was February in the first race of this year when I had the heat stroke. Theoretically, yes, it's gonna suck, but I should be able to finish the race without it. I have to if I want to compete for a championship. And my head fan broke. My cool shirt stopped working all right before I even went out for the race, so I had nothing the whole race. My water bottle stopped working, and I had nothing. And I made it 45 minutes before I started to see double, and my vision started to go. It was getting hard to breathe, and I was really starting to shut down. I was starting to pass out. So I eventually had to come in, and the ambulance took me, and I ended up they put an IV in me, and I was fine after a few hours, but I should be able to finish the race. But yes, I have had issues like that, and that's one of the examples. It does suck, but that's why you got to train and condition yourself for when those sucky situations end up happening.
Yeah, that must have been such a crazy experience there. But I guess what would you say has been your favorite, like during your young career so far? What's been your favorite win so far?
Las Vegas. Las Vegas at the end of the year, it's like the Super Bowl of go karting. And some of the world's best will come down um, for that. So it was a huge field. There's like 70 drivers, and we were fast the whole weekend. This was actually my first ever win in 2020, and I ended up winning the biggest race of the entire year, and that was another huge step in my racing career. Um, and one that definitely convinced my dad to keep pushing me through everything. But yeah, before that it was super tough times because I just got into the national racing, so I was getting my butt kicked a lot, and I had to really learn the aggression and the way these guys drive because they're super aggressive and they don't care. They'll put you in the wall. So just how to mentally get stronger and drive faster and learn for next time. And at the end of the year, we finally executed and won one of the biggest races. So super emotional day for me, but that was a huge win in my career.
Yeah, it's very cool. And you mentioned Kyle Busch was your favorite driver before, and he's a Vegas guy, so that must be an added like gratification too to that win.
It was super cool. Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about that at the time, but come to think of it, yeah, that's true. He does live there. I'd love to go back down there.
Yeah,
There's
for
an
sure.
F1 race down there this at the end of this year, so I think I may be going. Hopefully, I'll see him in the grandstands. But yeah,
Yeah, that's very cool. And then have you raced in the rain before? And then
yes.
if so, like how would you do like in it?
I like the rain. Uh, I tend to do better than others in the rain. I won't say I'm the best driver in the rain, but there's always room for improvement. Um, and at every track, there's always going to be different situations. You can't take the normal racing line because the rubber on the racetrack becomes slick. The grippy part of the racetrack will become slick in the rain. So now you have to drive around the rubber and fine grip. And even then, you'll see some puddles that you'll just hydroplane on. Like it's flat out, just all feel and finding the grip. And whoever finds it the fastest will ultimately win the race. Usually, unless you don't, unless you put it in the wall, unless you crash. But yeah, it's you just gotta find it. There's no real visuals. You just gotta feel it in your ass because that's part of it. That's part of it, right? And that's where you feel everything. So, and um, and choose wisely where you want to be.
Yeah, for sure. And then in the racing, the drivers you're racing against, which ones do you like lean on the most for advice? Or I know like Connor Zelish is one of them, but any others?
Brent Cruz, Brent Cruz, and Hayden and Carson Koppel. Um, Brent's been racing a year longer than I have in TA2 and MX. He doesn't run MX5 Cup, but in TA2 and Connor's been racing a year longer than I have in TA2 and MX5 Cup. So they have more experience than I do and a lot more knowledge than I do, and they were in a similar situation that I was in last year. Um, so they definitely helped me get through the first half of this year, um, and just giving me advice on what to do um, and how to perform in such a series like MX5 Cup and Trans Am. So that was big, and like the Quapples is pretty obvious. I mean, I've only really done two races, and they've been racing oval for years, right? I mean, even his dad raced. Travis raced in NASCAR all the time, so his kids started very young in oval racing and never really did any road course. So they have so much experience when it comes down to oval racing, and they helped me progress like a year in only two races. So they're really good guys, and yeah, those are the guys I lean on.
Yeah, it's really great you have that support system around you. And um, I guess how often does your family make it out to your races?
Not often. It's me and my dad, and no one comes. Um, I have, like I said, a 15-year-old brother and a 7-year-old sister, so they have to have a parent somewhere. So my mother is their caretaker for the most part, and um, unless there's no baseball or horse riding or school and everything aligns perfectly, my mom and the rest of my family will come down to race. Like I was at Lime Rock earlier this year and raced for the Trans Am Series, and my mom and brother and grandparents all came down for the first time ever, and like first time in 7 years they saw me race. So that was a really cool experience. But as of right now, the data shows one every 7 years. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then you're from the state of New Jersey. Have you ever had some home track wins before?
Yeah, I have. I've had some in go karts. And then at New Jersey Motorsports Park. And there's no other. I mean, I had a podium at Lime Rock. I would consider that a home track. So I had a podium in the Trans Am Series at Lime Rock, and two podiums at Watkins Glen in the MX5 Cup Series. But uh, yeah, I've won quite a few races here in go karts at my home tracks.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I know you mentioned earlier that Kyle Busch is your favorite driver, but Martin Truex Jr. is from New Jersey. So I guess if
That's
Kyle
true.
Busch if he doesn't win the championship, do you pull for Martin Truex to win?
Yeah, I like Truex. I sometimes think he's a little bit too clean of a race car driver because and sometimes he loses championships or wins because he gets used up essentially by people like for example Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. at Martinsville. He ended up losing a win and I think he still got the ticket to the four championship four anyway. But you know you're gonna get used up sometimes if you're not aggressive enough and you don't give it back. So I feel like he could be a little bit more aggressive. But I like him as a race car driver. He's clean and he gets it done fairly.
I guess you mentioned the like how drivers have to make it to a championship 4 round nowadays in NASCAR. Um, I guess it's different with your series you're on now. I guess it's based off consistency.
Yes, it
And
is.
then yeah, so I guess as a kid, I guess growing up, have you ever thought of doing something other than racing? Like ever had second thoughts of doing racing, but or was your mindset all racing?
Mm, well, it was all racing uh, from 10 years old to now. But before that, I used to draw a lot. So I used to be an artist. Um, and I was pretty good at it. And I thought maybe that was something I could do, but it's boring. I mean, you're sitting there for hours drawing, and it's very hard to do. Don't get me wrong, but there's nothing like going 200 miles an hour. Like nothing will beat it. So uh, I found my passion quickly and never looked back.
Yeah, for sure. And then have you ever had a spin and win?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Um, I don't think so. I've had a spin and podium before. I've done that in go karts before. Um, and I've done it in a car before. I've never gotten a win after spinning though. I haven't been put in enough situations or races for anything like that to happen yet. Uh, I'm sure it'll happen in the future where I do get spun out and I have to really grind and work hard and get back to the front. But no, I've had a spin in third and a spin in second. No win.
Has there ever been a race where maybe you had a penalty, you had to go all the way back in the pack or something like that, and you had to like have you ever had a race where you had to go through adversity and then somehow still make it up in a podium or even a win?
Yes, I've done that a lot actually. I've done that in go karts before. I've come from last place to win. I've done it in cars before. I've gone from 30th to fifth. I've gone from 40th to second. I've gone from uh, uh, nine. I won in Detroit when I won in Detroit. I came from ninth to first. But I've always liked doing that. Like on iRacing, I'll get bored sometimes and put on the AI and make the difficulty pretty high, and I'll put like 40 guys, and I'll start dead last and see how high I could go up the field. I don't know. I just always like that stuff. I've been in more situations like that than most. I've had a lot of misfortunes when it comes to racing go karts or cars, and I've had to start in the back a few more times than other people. And I think that experience really helped me because I do find it fairly easy to go from, um, let's say, last or somewhere in the back of the pack to the front of the pack, no matter the series I'm in. So, uh, yeah, I have done that before, and I like it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I know that Kyle Larson is one of those that enjoys doing that, like going from the back to the front. Like as a little kid, he used to tell his parents that I prefer to start last because I want to pass everyone. So
Mhm.
that's very cool. And then uh, as far as car handling, if you couldn't have it perfect where it's neutral, do you prefer a loose or tight car?
Loose. I don't like tight. Tight could suck sometimes. You burn the front tires off of it, and then you can't get any rotation. Uh, I could maintain loose. Loose could be a little bit sketchy, but um, that really comes down to driving. If a car is tight, there's really no, you can't drive around it. You just gotta hold on, really.
Yeah, for sure. And then are you more of a hard on entry or slower on entry type of driver?
Hard in entry. I'll break the latest. That's just the way my driving style works. I might compromise my exit sometimes, but that's just the way I drive. Even in the TA2 car, brake super late, get it turned, and then be able to straight line it off, uh, and mat the gas off the corner.
Yeah, for sure. And then have you ever been a part of a photo finish before?
I have actually won a go kart race like that before, and I've had a few podium finishes due to photo finish. But yeah, I had a photo finish in go karts 8,000ths of a second before. It's fun. It's definitely you don't know who wins, so um, it's a bit sketchy, and it sucks when you lose those races too. Because I have lost races by a few thousandths of a second, and you work so hard just to lose like that. But uh, they could be really good or they could really suck. But yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, for sure. And then in racing, what would you say is your greatest strength and your greatest weakness?
Greatest strength, I think, is the race for me. My qualifying, I still need to work on. I've been on pole obviously before. I've been on pole 4 times this year, but I'll either be really good at it or I'll just botch the lap. And I'll instead of qualifying easily in the top five, I'll qualify top 10, top 15. So I need to work on that. But usually in the race, I tend to come alive, um, and really manage my race better than other drivers and end up at the end of the race up front again. So
Yeah, and I forgot to ask, have you ever when I'm assuming you've been to NASCAR races, have you ever been to a race where Kyle Busch had won it that day?
no, sadly no. I've only been to 2 NASCAR races, believe it or not. Um, went to 2 NASCAR races right before I started racing, and then after I started racing, like NASCAR, I race almost every weekend, so there's never really much time. But I think the 2 races I went to, Jimmy Johnson won both, so that's when he was in his prime. So no, Kyle Busch wins.
And then as a kid, like maybe you played for your high school team, but have you played any sports before? Any other than racing?
Baseball from 6 years old to 9. No, I'd say 8, and I played baseball, and then I started doing hip hop, like from hip hop dancing from like 8 to 10 years old. Right before I started racing, I was just lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't like baseball. Dancing really wasn't for me, and then I finally found what was. But before that, I don't know. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
That's very cool. Do you remember what position you played in baseball?
No, I was like 6, 7 years old, so it was like t-ball. So um, I remember hitting the ball. I don't remember where I'd go after that. I know I'd run the first base, but after the innings would change, I don't know where I would go. I don't remember it.
And then obviously you enjoy watching racing, but is there any other sport you enjoy watching?
Other than racing,
Yeah.
hockey, ice hockey. I think that's really cool. Other than that, not really.
Who's your favorite ice hockey team?
Uh, what's it called? The oh my god, what's the team called? The I forget it. I can't think of it. But anyway, my sponsor, Nerd Focus, sponsors the New Jersey Devils, so I'll just say the Devils. Oh wait, no, the Rangers. There you go, the Rangers. I like the Rangers. My friends like the Rangers. He introduced me to ice hockey, so um, I just kind of been a Rangers fan since.
Yeah, it's very cool. And then throughout your years, who would you say's been your biggest inspiration?
Um, I'm a Formula One guy, um, and I'd say Lewis Hamilton. I think he's the most complete driver on the grid. I think he's the cleanest driver. He keeps the car on track. You don't really see him get into any accidents. He's consistently scoring in the points. He's got the most wins of anybody. He's got the most championships. He wins fairly. And he's just a well-spoken driver. I mean, even when he's outside the race car, he's well-spoken. Like I said, he's very proper, and he does more than just racing. Around he does singing. I know he does some piano. He does some some programs to help other world problems. And I just think overall he's an awesome guy, and he's a great race car driver.
Yeah, that's very cool. You mentioned earlier Kyle Busch is your favorite NASCAR driver, Lewis Hamilton F1. Then who would be your favorite IndyCar?
Willpower. I mean, willpower. Willpower is great. An amazing race car driver, but me and him have actually raced together before in go karts 2 years ago, and he followed me on Instagram, which I thought was really cool. But I'll see him once again at the go kart track or some of these TA2 races. TA2 will race the same weekend as IndyCar, so we'll say hello to each other here and there. But I've been close with him, but it's not only because I'm close with him. He's an amazing IndyCar driver. He won the damn championship last year, so no, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then do you have any pets right now?
No, I don't. I've never had a pet, believe it or not.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know, I know. I wish I did, but I didn't. I don't.
Yeah. And then outside of racing, whenever you do have free time, what do you enjoy do?
Um, well, outside of racing, because I race so much, you get to actually spend time with your family and friends. So, um, other than training 6 days a week, when I'm not training, I'll hang out with all my friends. We'll go on some cool adventures. We're young teenagers. I'll find an abandoned hospital or something, and we'll go explore it. All got fast cars, 5 speed race cars on the road. So um, we'll have fun, street race sometimes. We're just having fun, and spend time with family. You get to spend close time with people that you love for the first time in a while because you're always gone. So it's always good to refresh. When you race so much, sometimes you could lose that relationship or home relationship with some of your friends and family. So it's always good to recharge your batteries for the next race, um, and just get close to your family again.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I guess we could end on some fun questions now. The
Okay.
first one is, have you ever been overseas before?
I have. I've been to Canada, Mexico, um, Bahamas. I haven't really gone far. That's really it. I want to go to Italy so bad, but I'm just waiting for that opportunity to come up.
Yeah, for sure. And then I guess a lot of F1 races overseas, so maybe attending an F1 race or something.
I
Yeah.
want to so bad. Absolutely.
I think I saw um you were at yeah, I was studying your Instagram page for this interview and I think I saw were you at the Miami F1 race last year? I think you were.
I did. I went to the Miami race. Yeah, I
How was that
actually drove on the
experience?
racetrack. It was cool. I drove on the track. So they were doing a Ferrari. I was with one of my dad's friends who's close with motor racing. And there was like a Ferrari 75-year anniversary celebration, and he owned a Ferrari. So he let me drive it. And for the anniversary, they put on a whole show where the Ferraris will drive around the racetrack, and I was able to drive in a Ferrari around the Miami Grand Prix uh, racetrack, so that the F1 cars are going to be racing on. So it was super super cool. It was only one lap, but we were doing almost like a pace lap, so it was a good 3-4 minutes of glory. But it was super awesome. And then we watched the race the next day, which sometimes it's weird. You've never seen an F1 car before. You get to see, like, for example, my idol, Hamilton, you get to see him in person, and you don't really realize how real it is till it's right in front of you. So it was awesome. It was really awesome. I want to do it again.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I like how they're starting to do F1 races in the United States. They had one in Vegas as well, so
Yeah, and Coda. It's
yeah,
gonna be cool.
that's very cool. And then what would you say is on your bucket list?
Like for F1 races to watch, or like or like personal tracks for me to race at?
Just anything in life in general.
Okay. I like to skydive. Love to skydive. Um, I'd love to race in Europe one day. Absolutely. Doesn't matter if it's Spa, 24-hour Le Mans, doesn't matter. I want to drive one of those really, really bad. Um, um, just get out more. I wanna go travel across seas, go to all the countries. You don't realize how different the world is. So you leave. Uh, well, for instance, I live in America, obviously. So um, there's so many different cultures out there that I want to be able to experience one day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then I guess the next question, who is your all-time favorite Disney character?
Good question. I mean, I always like Mr. Incredible. I don't know why. I always used to watch that stuff. Is Lightning McQueen a Disney movie?
I believe it is, yeah.
Then Lightning McQueen. Scratch Mr. Incredible. Lightning McQueen. I used to watch that movie on repeat when I was younger.
Like,
So yeah.
yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned that. I think I watched it a couple days ago. So,
Really? Which one? The new one?
the original, the first one.
Nothing gets better than the original. But yeah, I
Oh
used to
yeah,
watch the original back in 2008, 2009 when I was a kid, like over and over and over again. And that was kind of a telltale sign that I was gonna end up going down this path one day because I just loved it. But yeah.
yeah, it's very cool. And then, would you prefer bone-in or boneless wings? And then your favorite flavor of wings?
Bone in the wing. One. I think you're silly if you don't. Um, and I don't like sauce. I don't know. I don't like any hot sauce for one. I don't like anything spicy, but I never liked touching the sauce either. Um, I'm a bit of a child when it comes to that stuff, so I always get the dry rub, the lemon pepper lime dry rub or something. It's so good. But yeah,
Yeah, that does sound really good. Maybe I'll give that a try.
you gotta try it, man.
Yeah. And then, what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Um, Vanilla chocolate swirl, soft serve.
Oh, you can't go wrong with that.
Mm-mm.
And then, do you know how to play any instruments?
I don't. I used to try to play guitar, but that's when I was trying to figure out stuff. That was during my dancing and baseball days. I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life.
And then I guess uh keeping up the music realm, what's your favorite music genre and your favorite artist and song of that genre?
Um, um, I don't necessarily have a favorite artist, but I like to listen to some of the old 2010 classics. I think the music was way better back then, and I like to listen to some funk music for the gym, like some of those instrumental musics. But I'm not a country guy. Never liked listening to country. I'm not a rock guy. Um, I've got a weird taste in music, but you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, music wise.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned earlier you listen to music like before races is I guess that funk instrumental is probably one of them you
Yeah,
probably
definitely.
gets you amped up.
Yeah, that's what I listen to. It's a bunch of that TikTok music that goes around now. But yeah, I listened to that before. There's no words in the music, but I think that's what helps because when you trying to get in the zone and you hear other words talking about a completely different story or scenario than you're actually in, it can kind of become distracting. So yeah, I listen to funk music before I go out.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I guess closing out now, everyone at PitPass Network enjoys to donate to a charity after each interview. So is there a charity you'd like to highlight for us?
I don't have a charity that I've been helping or that I've created yet, but I'm sure if we do another one in the future and I do have a charity, I'll let all the fans know at home. But as of right now, I don't have a charity.
Okay, awesome. And you could just mention one that you don't have, like maybe like a program if you wanted to. Um,
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think a program I would want to have um, is maybe making maybe NASCAR more accessible to young drivers because it's so expensive nowadays. I mean, not even the best drivers make it in simply because the next guy had a few extra $1 million. So I think NASCAR and motorsports in general has become more too much of a money sport. So I'd try to create a program that would help younger drivers have more opportunities in motorsports. But uh, I don't know about charity yet. I have to, figure that out. But definitely that would be one of the programs I'd want to do.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, thanks, Thomas. It's been a great interview, and yeah, thanks for joining us and wanting us to get to know you more and your racing journey and path and right now. And yeah, thanks for joining us and wish you the best of luck the races to come and the seasons to come.
I appreciate it, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.